Hey everybody, welcome back to my little corner of the bookish world. Today, you are going to hear about my top 5 books that I read in 2020. And oh boy, were they fun. But we'll get to that in just a few minutes. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video. You know the drill. And make sure to subscribe, like all that good stuff. Help me out. And yeah, so let's get right to this because I don't want to bore you with all my endless, frivolous goings on. Yeah, something like that. Let's get right to it. First of all, before I get to my top 5, there is an honorable mention. And that honorable mention is a nonfiction book by the name of Goodbye Things, The New Japanese Minimalism. This was an audiobook that I read in 2020. Fumio Sasaki is the author of the book, and it is just a fantastic book. I got so much out of it. I actually listened to it a second time just to make sure that I gleaned everything that I could from it. And I'm probably going to listen to it a third time because it's just that good. And it's short, so it's a quick listen. So I plan to listen to it again. As you may know, if you followed my channel for a while, I tend to try to live a minimalist lifestyle, and so that book is a very, very good book and deserves an honorable mention. Even though it didn't make my top 5, it would have been a close number 6, and so, for that reason, I'm putting it in that slot. So let's go ahead and start with number 5, and that would be The Murder on the Orient Express by Agatha Christie. I'm a huge fan of mystery novels. I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie. I grew up reading my grandmother's Agatha Christie books. I would go over to her house. I'm like, hey, Grandma, can I borrow a book? And I'd go and pick one of her Agatha Christie books. So that was a lot of fun. And I probably read Murder on the Orient Express when I was a kid, but I didn't remember much about it. And so I was really excited to have read that in 2020. It is in my number 5 slot. And if you're curious, I'm ranking these from 5 being the bottom of the list to number 1 being the top of my list. But that says nothing about the quality of Murder on the Orient Express. It is a fantastic book. I would highly recommend it to anyone who likes mystery. And even if you don't like mystery or you don't think you like mystery, you should probably pick this book up and see if it changes your mind, all right? So let's move on to number 4. And that is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This was a new series for me. I'd heard a lot of really good reviews on it, and it's the first book in the Broken Earth trilogy. And I'd been following N.K. Jemisin for a while. She really impresses me as a person, as a human being, and I'm no less impressed by her writing. Her writing is phenomenal. And so that goes in my number 4 slot on this list. It was just a fantastic read. I could not put the book down, and the ending definitely left me wanting more, and I'm going to be hopefully finishing the series this year. So that is my number 4, The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. Number 3 is Hyperion by Dan Simmons. This book is an absolutely phenomenal science fiction story. It is deep and rich in character development, in new locales, new worlds to explore, and it has a very subtle backdrop of philosophy. It talks about kind of the origins of the name Hyperion and things like that. So it's just a phenomenal read. I was so happy to have read it. I had seen it mentioned by several booktubers that I follow before I got a chance to read it, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to pick this book up, and I was so glad I did. It was a quick read, it was engaging, thought-provoking, just kept me on the edge of my seat several times. I loved that book. So Hyperion is my number 3 book that I read in 2020. My number 2 book, and this may surprise some of you that I have put this as my number 2, because it is a hugely popular book. It just released in 2020. It took me about 2 weeks to read it once it released, and that is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. And some of my fellow Sanderson fans are probably watching this video and they're thinking, man, why would you put that in number 2? And I just did. It was a fantastic read. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The world just keeps building and building and expanding, and the mythos took on a whole other level in this book in terms of expanding the Cosmere and our understanding of the Cosmere. It's just a fantastic book, and I can't wait for the next book in the Stormlight Archive series. So yes, it was a fantastic book, highly recommended, but it got my number 2 slot because there's one that I actually liked better. I know. Don't come hunt me down, string me up by my toenails, and tickle me to death. I would really appreciate if you didn't, because just my opinion, it's worthy of my number 2 slot, but not my number 1 slot. So if it's in your number 1 slot, more power to you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I did too. Fantastic read. Brandon just keeps cranking out good books. I really haven't read a book by him that I don't enjoy. So that's me off my soapbox, and I am going on to my number 1 book that I read in 2020. And that is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. This book blew me away. I'd seen it in Barnes & Noble several times. I'd seen it recommended by several people, and I'd just never gotten a chance to read it, and I finally did, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down, I'm going to read this now. And man, oh man, was I blown away by that book. I liked that book so much that it got the number 2 slot in my top favorite books of all time. It was that good. There is one other book that sits in my number 1 slot. Otherwise, The Night Circus would have been there. But The Ocean at the End of the Lane is in the number 1 slot currently for my top favorite books of all time. But, man, The Night Circus blew me away. It's whimsical, it's engaging, it's mysterious. The mystery factor was high up there for me, and that was fantastically done. It was so unique and different, and I just can't say more good about it. The prose was phenomenal, and I would probably read this book again and again if I had more time to do it, because I just had a thoroughly fun ride. I will eventually reread it again, so I just don't have a lot of time right now. I will eventually reread it again, though, once I get more room in my schedule to do so, if that ever happens. But I'm going to make it happen one of these days, right? Sometimes when you want to do something, you just have to make time in your schedule to do it. So it will happen. I'm setting my intention right now. It's going to happen. I will reread it. So this has been my top 5 books. Well, in one honorable mention, of course. my top 5 books that I read in 2020. What do you think? What were some of your favorite books that you read in 2020? Maybe you made a booktube video about your favorite reads of 2020 and you would like to link that in the comments below. I would be more than happy to watch the video and find out about it. Or if you just want to chat with me in the comments and let me know what your favorite reads of 2020 were, that's great too. Have you read any of these books? If you have not, you are sorely missing out. I mean, you just need to stop watching right now. You need to go pick up at least one of these books and read it, because I'm not going to let you hear the end of it. Well, I know I don't know you, so I can't really keep badgering you about it. But you're going to continue to hear about it at some point in my videos about how good these books are. Eventually. It happens. So, please do go enjoy these books. If you read them and you enjoyed them as much as I did, let me know. If you didn't enjoy them, let me know that too. Tell me. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out what the scoop is on your thoughts on these books. And I'm just going to end that right there because I want to talk about a couple of other things. Next week, I have a book review for you of 3 books, but they kind of go together and they're really short books. So I will be doing a triple book review next week. But I think you'll really enjoy it. And so stay tuned for that. And the week after that, I will be doing a new Kindle book haul. I haven't done a Kindle book haul in a while, and I got some feedback that it may be something that my audience wants to see. And I have gotten a lot of books on my Kindle recently, so I will be doing that in the following week. So make sure that you are tuned in, make sure you're subscribed and all that stuff so that you don't miss out. And with that being said, guys, I thank you so much for joining me. It has been an absolute pleasure sharing my love of books with you and my thoughts on these books. And I hope you will continue to read more books. I will talk to you next time. Until then, I'm Chaz, signing off. Have a good night.